first of all, of course, we won't start with John because you guys have to introduce yourselves and tell a little something about what you do. Starting with Mikko, can you tell us something about Hack Forward and what you do at the Accelerator?
Yes, sure thing. So, hello everyone. Hack Forward is an early stage venture capital company. So we do pre-seed level investments, although we run a 12-month program and invest slightly larger amounts. You'll probably see on the slides, I think there was a comparison soon than some of the other programs, but obviously that reflects other characteristics of the program as well. We are based all over Europe. Actually, the headquarters is in Hamburg, but we have startups from UK, France, Germany, Austria, Poland, Lithuania, at least. And myself, I'm based in London. Our focus is heavily technical. We prefer to invest in teams that are mostly programmers and have a B2C focus or focus on the product that has organic spreading potential.
Cool. Susanna?
Does it work? Yeah. I work for Camerabells. It's an accelerator program based in Warsaw, run by Hard Gamma Ventures. We have 3 months of intense program. We invest up to 12,000 euros. That's a news for today, actually. The first edition just ended 2 weeks ago. And right now we are looking for startups for the next edition. We need to collect 10 awesome teams, and then we will start the program. We're laughing.
It's
just
Yeah.
Owen
We're
wants
our
10 teams,
mentor.
and I want 10 teams as well.
We all need 10 teams, right? But you were our mentor, so help us.
Eoghan?
Owen Jennings from Startup Bootcamp. We have presently now run 30 companies through 3 cities. So in Copenhagen is where we started in 2010. We did another program in Madrid, another 10 companies. We did a second program in Copenhagen, and we'll do a fourth one in Dublin, in Ireland. That's where I'll be running it. And then we'll have a fourth city, which we're probably announcing soon. So our sort of ethos is about bringing entrepreneurs to an already successful ecosystem and then trying to make that ecosystem even more supportive for the entrepreneurs. I think we've found some good ones already. And in Dublin, I think we'll have a particular focus for this next group of 10. We've also got applications open. So we're looking for, I actually already handed away 2 places, so I've got 8 places left, and we're looking in particular for companies that are a little bit more enterprise. So I think that's a little bit a different take, I think, in a lot of the accelerators that traditionally you haven't had. They've been really applied to consumer internet space. So now I think we're seeing that the cost even of enterprise software falling. So why not and not even just software. I mean, actually one of the places I handed out was actually to a company doing a device. So, and in particular, when we look at the Dublin ecosystem, what we like there is basically being able to connect the companies to major multinationals in Dublin. So we've got Google 250 meters away, Facebook, but also some more heavier tech companies, and also companies like Citibank. But you would think normally, what does Citibank want, or IBM? But they have huge customer networks, and if we can get some startups positioned into those customer networks, then I think we turn, like as John said, the aim is to get the startups into grow-ups and into, I love finish-ups. Come on, that's just great. Fantastic.
Interesting point you actually make, and that's probably one of the things that the guys here are interested in, is what makes you guys different from each other and why they should apply to one or more programs. So, John, what does make Accelerator different from the others?
Yeah,
What makes Springboard special?
Because it's me.
You're special.
And I'm very special. That's what the doctor keeps telling me. So one of the key differentials is location. So I'm based in the UK. I've just completed a set of teams in Cambridge, which for everybody else on the planet, which is only 45 minutes out of London, would be called Springboard London. The 10 teams, one's already got funding, 4 I've got term sheets. My natural average is always I want to hit 50% funded. As of yesterday, I've officially launched Springboard London. My applications are open too. I'm looking for 10 awesome teams. I don't give a shit about which sector they're in. I just want great teams. We've got a really massive network of mentors in London that support us, and therefore we can support a wide variety of different teams. What makes us different? I think the thing I would always say is look at the results. Look at what happens to teams after the program. Whether I give £5,000 per founder or €4,000 or whatever, bluntly doesn't make a jot of difference. Look at results. See what happens to teams that go through them. I'm happy to live by my track record.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. Mikko, one of the things that separates Hack Forward from other programs is its length. It's 12 months and not just 3 months, and you take a higher stake than most accelerators. Why?
Yeah, right. So, yeah, like I already slipped in the introduction, and let me just check this to make sure. Yeah, that looks about right. Yeah, so we haven't changed anything. That's still the same. So if you look at it in terms of valuation, the investment multiplied by the stake we take, we're pretty much for a two-person team. I think we're pretty much on par with like Seed Camp, for example. So in that sense, that's just simple math basically, and we're all doing like really early stage deals anyway. So we're just simplifying everything with a fixed model. We've got fixed investment size depending just on how many people there are in the team, 1, 2, or 3. And we also make all of our term sheets and that kind of stuff, openly downloadable from the website as PDFs. Location also makes a difference, and location differentiates us. Our model is such that we don't care where the startups are located as long as they are in Europe somewhere. What we do during the 12 months is we bring everybody together every 3 months to our build events, which are kind of long weekends of workshops and mentorship, where we also invite top speakers in various areas of expertise. We've ran the events in Mallorca, which is a nice place to go every 3 months, and in Berlin, which of course is also a very nice place. Yeah, to give you an example, like in the last Berlin event, we had Werner Vogels, CTO of Amazon, as a speaker and mentor. And it's also the focus of team types dictates how you run the program. So since we concentrate on geeks, since we have a 12-month program, since it's a kind of a B2C focus, we pretty much know what kind of challenges they're going to run into in the first 3 months and towards the end of the program. So we can tailor the mentorship and the contacts that we provide to actually answer the startup's needs as good as possible.
One of the things you mentioned was basically you don't care about the location of the team. For all of you, the question: how much does the original location of the team and, for example, the market size of the country they're in impact your decision to take them into your program? Because a lot of startups, especially here and, for example, in Croatia, Serbia, on one hand, we either have to be as big to be acquired by Google or PayPal or some other company, or we have to be very, very local.
Yeah, no, I don't understand the question about market size at all. It's the internet. It's the world. You're not. We're, you might want to be a really big fish in a really small pond, but then I don't think our program's the right fit for you.
Yeah, I think that comes down to, and we'd all agree on this, is the ambition of the team. Yeah. So, does the team want to sit there and say, I want to be really big in Romania? It's like, I don't care. Yeah. I want to be fucking big everywhere. Is kind of the answer I expect to see.
Actually, we had a case. We had a team from India, and they had exactly the same attitude. That's why we accepted them. They just want to be big everywhere. The Indian market is very bad for startups, and they want to conquer Europe and United States.
I mean, I think that for us, it's only really interesting if the team wants to get out of the original country, and that's actually why we have these locations, because we want startups to leave wherever they are. We think that that's actually a huge value in and itself, is actually leaving your comfortable surroundings, changing everything, and then the focus that comes with that actually is part of the magic of an accelerator program. And when we look at, okay, we're doing it in Ireland, the only thing I say to Irish startups is leave. Get out, because we don't have a market. We have 4.5 million people in the whole country. That's like the size of Manchester, So we don't have a market. So I tell them all, just get out and sell your stuff. Keep the company there if you want, and keep staff there and all that sort of stuff. But don't look to a small country like Ireland to ever be a self-sustaining market, because it isn't. So we have to have startups, I think, with the ambition to treat the entire European continent at the very least as their market. And anything less just isn't good enough.
Is there, with all of you basically competing on the European market and building startups that want to create viable businesses, is there enough both capital from investors to help them grow, to reach that point, to be a global business in Europe? Or does it at some point every European startup, be it from Romania or London or wherever, have to go to the States, relocate to the US, or can they be based in London or whatever, or is it just leave under every circumstance?
I think it is different, but I think that we are seeing a couple of patterns. I think what City Deal and Daily Deal hasn't really been fully understood, and I think it was really, really smart. They didn't go to the US. What they did, though, is they moved, they started sort of in the central, and then they went west and east, either side of Germany. And they set up little small teams in each of those countries and won those markets really quickly before their major US competitors did. So I often wonder, and this is a problem that Irish startups have all the time, and to a certain extent English startups as well, is because we speak the same language as the US, we automatically think that's our next market. But guys, it's like 6,000 kilometers away. First of all, Philadelphia is completely different from Washington, it's completely different from South Carolina. It's a big place. And I think that we're doing a disservice to send them over there. I think that we should really be creating value. I mean, let's face it, who are the buyers of these companies? By and large, US companies looking to expand, or hope, what the real one is, Chinese buyers. So I think we should be creating value for those types of buyers in Europe by expanding and creating a one European global dominant player in each sort of space. And then I think that creates value for acquirers. Or perhaps at that point it's already self-sufficient and is going to go and acquire then elsewhere. But I think that the difficulty is that we waste our resources on huge markets that are far away that we don't understand very well, instead of just getting over the language issue and the different VAT rates. Okay, I think those are simple problems that we have to get over, and then we can create really European winners that have huge value stored in them, and those exits will go on to create the whole cycle.
So what would be a successful startup at the end of each of your programs? How do you see a company who's gone through Springboard or Hack Forward in like 3 months or 12 months, or through Camerabells? What's the team like? What are they ready to do?
I kind of get very mixed emotions about this because to some extent my measure tends to be how many of the teams go on to get funded, and there's half of my brain that always says, actually, you don't need to get funded to be successful. So I think the problem is it's a really easy measure to point at and to say, look at that, that's an objective measure, there's half of the teams that I have get funded. But over a period of time, clearly the key element is how many businesses are sustainable, how many ones go on to actually grow. Sometimes that might benefit other investors. It shouldn't. My core business is about helping my teams in whatever they want to do. I'm funded via angel investors. My angel investors are typically entrepreneurs, and most of I think I counted up the other day, 70% of my entrepreneurs that help me fund the program have never had venture capital. And actually there's a whole bunch of like really cool, good businesses out there. I keep bumping into people and going, holy crap, you do what? And they go, we don't care about venture capital. We do what the shit we want to do. So I think the fixation around, and it's all about raising the next round, I get kind of a bit annoyed about that. But unfortunately, that's the world I live in, and that's the measure I use in the short term.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the funding bit's actually the kind of the most boring bit of the whole startup life cycle. I mean, reading the tech press, you might get the feeling that that these are the key moments in a startup's life, and of course they're important to some. But at least from our perspective, I'd say that we are really product and user focused. So if a startup completes 12 months with Hack Forward and delivers a product that delivers solid value to its users, then it's successful. It's going to be successful because it can generate revenue by itself already. It's going to be successful because that user traction is a clear signal to further funding. So it's really that. Funding's kind of funding's an end result, or almost like a side result. But the result that we're at least aiming for is a product that delivers value to its users.
So what would you say to the people who see incubators basically as feeders to future investors for startups, basically just something in between, a filter for startups who should get funding in the future? How likely are you to give money, accept a startup that's really decided on being like basically not bootstrapped obviously, but intent on working their way through not getting new investments to grow, but actually getting sales or something else? What do you tell a startup founder who says, look, I don't want future investors, I want to grow this as is, if possible?
No, I mean, if that's what it looks like, if we believe in that kind of a plan, yeah, I mean, of course we'd be interested. That'd be awesome.
But let's not lose sight of this. Starting a business doing a startup is not about raising money. Starting a business doing a startup is not about going and getting venture capitalists and making them money. Starting a startup is all about building cool shit and actually doing something that you're passionate and believe and want to address as a problem. The other parts are just consequences of what you do. If you, interestingly, yesterday we had Doug Richards on stage. He quit after the second series of Dragon's Den in the UK, because what was happening was he described, he had people who turned up and actually said, I've got this really cool idea, I value it £1 million, give me £200,000. And he said, hold on, this is all back to front, yeah? You go and build shit and you do stuff, and sometimes you need money to help you grow your business, yeah? It's not driven from a money-centric point. It starts with the founders.
That's exactly right. If you do want to raise money, then the best way to do it is to not need it. I mean, when we were at Zing, this is probably a story that's been told before, but I mean, it was 30,000 euros was the start capital, and we were cash flow positive after 90 days on that money. Sure, we raised more money, but we did it on terms that we determined, and the valuation doubled every time we raised money, and that was why Lars ended up with so much of the shares when we IPO'd it in '96, and it's there was a lot of luck involved and timing and all that sort of stuff, but as a model, hard to beat. The only way to raise money is to go out and tell people you don't really need it, and the way to do that is to have your own sort of cash coming in from another source. And the best source of cash is actually customers. Customers finance Zing, actually.
Yeah,
actually, I don't know if there are any payers from Zing out there. Thanks a lot. You finance the company.
There's actually an interesting number somebody spoke to me about this week, and they basically said every pound or every euro or every dollar in sales is worth about 10 times that in equity funding. Yeah, 8 to 10 times. So go out and sell shit, pardon my French, because it's valuable. It puts cash flow back into your business, but it enhances underlying value of your business, and therefore when you do have to raise money, if you want to, you give less of it away. And guess what? When you go cash flow positive, bloody finding investors is a damn sight easier.
There's one other model that I've come across really recently, actually, and I found that quite exciting. I think it would be very relevant, actually, to the Romanian market, too, which is that I've seen a couple of effectively consultancy businesses, and they've had cash flow coming in from doing web projects or web design or whatever, and they've actually built their own product by taking 2 of the staff, having them do the product, and having the other 2, let's say it's a 4-person company, and the other 2 basically continue to drive the cash through the consultancy business. And I've seen 2 companies now. One of them was Orchestra, built it exactly that way. They started coding in December and they sold in August to Engine Yard. Each of them went home with a nice packet. And then the other one it's out there right at the moment is Intercom, another Irish startup. And they did exactly the same way. And I think that could apply to quite a few companies, maybe even out in the audience. You've got maybe 4 people, you're doing web projects. Take half the company, finance it with cash, and then the other one can build a product.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we're talking about incubators, so that's like an internal incubation. And yeah, a lot of service companies are doing that, and branching into a product. And yeah, it can definitely work for some.
For the startups who, fail to get into your programs and think like the mentorship part is the most important for them, they don't care about the seed that much. For the ones who don't make it in, what would you suggest to focus on first? You've seen a lot of startups, and what do you think is the one key thing that the ones applying to your programs are missing? Like the one thing they just miss and maybe apply again and miss again? Is it sales? Is it demo?
On a simple level, it's no different about startups, about going out and getting venture funding. You shouldn't be fixated by the need to go and do an incubator or an accelerator. It's not the end of the world if you don't get in. I think a slightly different thing is go and speak to bloody customers. That's the big thing that I constantly get angry with my startups that take part in acceleration programs is, have you spoken to somebody about this? There's a really cool story. I'll tell it. It's hopefully really short. We had a team who have just raised some money, oversubscribed round. They were in the bottom quartile, is a polite way of describing it, when I first picked them. And we basically did sales shadow calls with them. And one of the mentors went with them in sales calls. And halfway through the conversation, the mentor would kick him in the leg. And it was the sign for ask for money. Because startups hate asking for money because they might get rejected. And halfway through the call, he got kicked in the leg and he asked for money. And the guy said, yeah, obviously. How much? And he thought, oh, Christ, well, this is just, I've just been lucky. And they went to a second call and he got kicked in the leg and asked for money. And the guy went, yeah, obviously. You're building us a product or you're doing something. And suddenly it became an addictive process that actually the selling stuff was really, really cool. And they took themselves from the bottom quartile straight to the top quartile, and they're oversubscribed. They're in a place where people are giving them money that they don't really need. But it's the customer. They went and spoke to customers. And that's the big thing I really find really cool when I meet teams here in Romania and elsewhere in Eastern Europe, is you actually drive your businesses not through venture funding. More often than not, you do it through sales. And that's what makes you really, really exciting.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. That's a great story. I mean, and I would ask just one other thing to that, and I think that sometimes they've got too much built. They put 6 or 9 months into building product without having spoken to a customer, and that breaks my heart because I just know that the product could be so much better had they stopped. And even I tell companies to fake it. I'm a big believer in just faking it and blagging it. HTML is fantastic. Who cares if there's no database behind it? Really, and go and show it to a customer and just, I've seen some of the best guys I've seen on those kind of sales calls have a dummy, a click dummy on an iPad, and the customer doesn't know, and so here's the ideal process. We marry up John and my process, right? So I'll get the demo done on an iPad, right? And John and I'll go out and sell it, and then John will ask for the money. So we've spent like nothing on the demo. We've got my iPad, which is already paid for, hopefully, and John is going to ask for the money, and he's going to get 30,000 for that thing, and then we're going to have money before we've even gone to build it, and the customer's telling us what we want, what they want us to build. So that's, I think, the way we should be doing it. So if I've one plea with all the startups is stop building stuff for the moment until you get a better idea what actually you should be building. And that way you're going to save money, you're going to save tears and frustration, and you're going to have a much better chance of getting into sort of a type of an accelerator program.
And the reason it happens is a bit like Windows safe mode, which is I have two options here. I can code or I can go and speak to a customer. Oh, fuck, I don't want to speak to a customer who might say nasty things. I'll do some more coding, yeah? And I get really annoyed with my teams. It's like, why are you fucking coding? Why are you not going to speak to somebody, yeah? You can code later on. Fuck it.
Yeah, sounds like my job. Ask them another question or take questions through Twitter. So one question before we get to the audience from Twitter is, how do you internally calculate the number, how do you predict the number of startups that will succeed or fail? For VCs, let's say like 1 in 5, 1 in 10. What's your ratio? What do you think?
I don't think that well, VCs actually build businesses to fail. So the way they're set up is they don't want small exits. They prefer to double down and to bet big and to actually get big exits. So they've designed a model which essentially says, guess what, guys? 9 out of 10 aren't going to work, or they're not going to make any kind of significant money on the way through. We're betting on a big one. And actually one of our mentors, basically they raise money and they're a really smart team, and they've pivoted 3 times into different markets because the VCs kept telling them, this is US VCs, the VCs have been basically keep telling them that it's not a big enough fucking market, yeah? We need to find a bigger market and make more money. And they know it. That's the ride they've strapped themselves into. So they're not being stupid about it. So the metrics that we may end up with are different because my teams, I don't care about my teams. My teams can fail fast, and I think that's a good thing. Like, stop doing this shit and get on with something more important. They can bootstrap. They can go and get corporate funding. They can get angel funding. They can get venture funding. I just want to build cool startups. And some will, and I've seen it in the metrics with the 10, we will have 1 or 2 that's a standout star that will suddenly fly off the end. There'll be 1 or 2 at the explode. I've had teams just quit in the middle of my program because like, this just ain't gonna fucking work, yeah? And then there's a whole balance in between. So I expect that actually at least 50% of my teams will be sustainable at some point in the near future.
Any other calculations?
I think the ratios are pretty similar in that kind of rule of thumb of maybe 1 in 10 is pays for the rest. But yeah, and we see similar things. 12 months gives you a bit more time to change direction or pivot if you need to. But yeah, it can range anywhere from a learning experience to that kind of superstar.
Cool. So, questions from the audience, so we can finish up this cool conference. I can't see any hands.
They all want to go to the pub.
Oh, come on. One question for the end.
Nobody wants to know what we think about Romania and Bucharest? I guess not.
Oh.
Then I won't say it.
So no questions.
The women are cute and the beer's cheap.
Come on, one question.
I think this is.
Oh,
has to be
shit.
said. I think I'll just start off until somebody comes with a question. But I think it really has to be said. This is a fantastic ecosystem. This is a great conference.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Right. And
so we have a question.
good.
Oh.
I'm curious to see one startup from each incubator that you are most proud of.
So one startup from each of your incubators that you're most proud of.
I'm proud of all my babies.
Oh, come on. One.
Seriously, no, I have the best job in the world. Seriously, I get to hang out with startups, I get paid to do it. How the fuck does that work, yeah? I essentially lock myself in a room with 13 weeks with my teams, work 8 o'clock till midnight for 13 weeks, go out, have fun. There's a different model in Europe, which is we go out and get drunk regularly. It's part of the bonding process, and I don't think that really works in Y Combinator. I'm not true. I have personal favorites, but it's like saying, pick one of your children, which is the best
pick one of your
one.
children. Just
I'm
one.
not.
There are numerous ones.
All
just
right,
pick
okay. On my last program, there's a team called Apiary out of Czech Republic, and I just thought they were awesome. They just were really, and I'll say it, they're a really cool team. And the point being is I am very team-centric. It's not idea-centric. They were just really smart. They listened, they reacted, they did all the things that you would want them to do. Not necessarily listening to me, but listening and reacting. Sometimes they push back and say, that's right or that's wrong. But it's, as I say, I have an awesome job. I get to hang out with some really cool people.
Your talk did end like 30 minutes ago, so.
I know.
Mikko?
Right. Well, okay. It does vary a bit. It's also interesting that we are Hack Forward is an interesting time right now because we're a little over a year old as a program, and it's a 12-month program. So obviously we're starting to produce launches now. One that's been going on recently that's been very interesting. Also, I also spent time with them at their office because I'm the expert in residence in marketing. It's called Fantasy Shopper. They're based in the UK, and they were selected as finalists in the Global Amazon Web Services Startup Awards. So that's worth mentioning. And from Eastern Europe, Filmmaster from Poland is a great example as well. They've got a good product, and they've been doing great things in business development, such as partnering with the Raindance Film Festival in the UK.
You guys just don't know the meaning of one, right? Susanna?
We had 6 startups at the first edition, so it's not many. But I don't know, what was your favorite team of ours?
Oh, yours, the QR code guys. Somebody needs to fix out fucking business cards. I hate fucking business cards. Somebody will give me business cards later tonight. I can only make one promise. I got a shoebox at home. They go straight in the shoebox. Somebody needs to fix that problem for me.
It's just recycle, man.
Okay, QR code is awesome, but I love BusyFlow from Lithuania. They're really good coders, and they're listening to their customers. They're integrating productivity tools into one flow, and they're doing really amazing job. They have closed beta right now. So yeah, they're working hard, and I guess that's the most important thing during that 3 months, that you're actually really working. Mentors are great. We have like over 50 people, so they were meeting all days with the mentors, and they had no time to code, but they were working nights and days, and actually they are working very hard. So I guess BusyFlow.
Cool.
My choice goes to Webcrumbs from Romania. Cyprian, are you still in the audience? He's, I think he's back there somewhere. And he just came up to me just before I came up here. And hey, I said, how's it going? And he said, it's fantastic. And I said, well, he said, what was, I asked him, I said, what was the main benefit for you for a startup bootcamp? And he said, when I went to, before I went there, I was a technical guy. I coded, that was cool. He said, afterwards, my job is completely different now. Now I'm out there pushing the company, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm running the company. And I think that is, his words are better than mine. So I vote for Webcrumbs.